When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I gave, when you walk ransom, Cush and Seba in exchange for you. Because you are precious in my sight and honored, and I love you, I give people in return for you, nations in exchange for your life. Do not fear, for I am with you. I will bring you offspring from the east, and from the west I will gather you. I will say to the north, give them up, and to the south, do not withhold. Bring my sons from far away and my daughters from the end of the earth. Everyone who is called by my name, whom I created for my glory, whom I formed and made. And now from Matthew. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people Israel." Then Herod secretly called the Magi and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word so that I may go also and pay him homage." When they had heard the king and they set out, there ahead of them went the star, what they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. May these readings from Isaiah and Matthew inspire us to live for love.
Thanks be to God. Last week, we talked about how there are no endings in God's story arc, only new chapters building upon the old. Isaiah confirms that today. The people have been in a brutal exile, with only a very few left in and around Jerusalem. The conquests of Babylon were harsh and harmful. The damage done to nation, communities, ways of life, and ways of worship were sometimes catastrophic, and they certainly were for the Israelites. It shouldn't be surprising, but it always is. When you dominate because you can, when you acquire power by taking it through main force and a sense of self-superiority and entitlement, eventually, the people you have forced into submission are going to have had enough. The assurances of protection from harm and the well-being of the people we hear today in Isaiah are offered in that turning point. The people have been ransomed from their oppressor, and God assures them this is through divine and care. But this story is about a triangular relationship, not a binary good versus evil. The agent of change isn't Israel. It is King Cyrus the Great of the Achaemenid Empire. Cyrus goes down in history as a truly remarkable leader. His empire grows because he does something novel. Cyrus doesn't rule by conquest. He rules by shared liberation. Most of the places he comes to rule are thrilled to have him arrive because he has freed them from a desperate situation. And that's certainly the case for Israel. It is telling that the end of Isaiah's reading does not just talk about the protection God is offering to Israel. The passage asserts that God is actively protecting and claiming everyone called, everyone created, everyone formed and made. Which sounds a lot like the coming of the kingdom to me. A blanket of protection covering all who have been abused by dominant powers, and a smooth trip to safe harbor, to a place to call home, some returning, others finding first time. Instead of being only saved from, this is a vision of salvation with others, such that we are no longer other. We are now we. I love a happy ending. And I know to understand what makes it happy, we have to understand what was wrong in the first place. Which is why, as we celebrate Epiphany, it's a good moment to read the story of the Magi with fresh eyes. We all know this as the happy story of the wider world becoming aware of the birth of the Prince of Peace and honoring him. But there's a lot more going on here. Herod, the client king of Rome, is very protective of his position and the fragile truce he has built. In all fairness, while a bad man and a largely corrupt one, he has protected his people from the horrors of former conquests. It's not impossible to see why he is afraid of anything that might upset this careful balance. So when he's visited by 3 foreign dignitaries who are curious about the state of life under Roman occupation and rumors that such things might not go on forever, Herod convinces them to go and do his investigating for him. It's clever. Neither Rome nor his own people can accuse him of doing anything. These 3 foreign dignitaries from the East, by which we mean beyond the reach of Rome or her client states, go out to see for themselves. As ambassadors, they have good reason to understand the powers of the moment as well as what the future might look like. And for the sake of their own lands, the smart thing to do is anything that doesn't send Rome into a new phase of expansion. Having journeyed through the land, meeting many, observing much, the wise men decide together they are not going to participate in the game of houses as Herod's pawns. Instead, they leave seed money to nurture and protect a future leader who will not have taken campaign contributions from evil corporations. They choose to support a future leader rather than a present conqueror. It's an audacious move. And having done what they can, they go home. They ask for nothing in return. They extract no promises or favors. They do the right thing. They do what they can with a quiet resolve. If Epiphany is a spiritual, social, political, you are here sign on a map, the Magi were realizing they were at a crossroads requiring them to decide if they were going to support the status quo or subvert it. Isaiah realized that the people were at a turning point between life under Babylonian tyranny and great freedom under Cyrus. The end of tyranny should be a happy ending, but it turns out it is hard work to recover from so much trauma. We have to subvert power, but we also have to subvert our own tendencies toward fear and complacency. It's okay to just want to be done when the crisis is over. I saw what might be the greatest distillation of what we are called to do as Epiphany people this week. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. Let that sink in. Resistance to tyranny is obedience to God. The people have to embrace a life of freedom, of a rejection of tyranny. The wise men decide to resist Herod in Rome. Jesus will grow up to resist every form of oppression he is presented with. Mary cries out that her soul magnifies the Lord, and the rich and powerful will be sent away empty. We remember our baptism and our vows to resist evil and injustice in whatever forms they present themselves. Resistance comes in many forms. For Isaiah, it was in offering comfort and assurance to help overcome the sense of trauma the people still carry. For Cyrus, it was to win hearts and minds while also winning wars. For the Magi, it was to do what they could and then go home. For Jesus, it was to break down every wall society uses to divide and to distract us. In what ways might we be called to resist tyranny right now? We might begin by naming it for what it is and being honest in our speech about it. That's easier said than done, by the way. We might share the good news that tyranny is incompatible with the message of the gospel. That's something to evangelize. We are called to separate ourselves from the morally complacent. We might work for the rescue of others from the clutches of empire, remembering that God offers a blanket of protection to all of those who have been cowed by evil in the world. One of the first sermons I preached here was about the difference between being nice and being good. When we hesitate to resist tyranny, what excuses do we give? Are we more concerned with not rocking the boat or upsetting people or drawing attention to ourselves so that people think we're nice? When tyranny is present, nice is a luxury no one can afford. And when tyranny is simmering under the surface, not yet flowing freely, nice is a luxury only a few can very briefly afford. Resisting evil and injustice is good work and good news. We are not supposed to come here every week and take in lovely good news and then go home and lock it away for the week. But people are probably not going to tell you how nice you are when you go share good news. I'm always aware that what is happening in the wide world is just a magnified version of more personal realities. Some weeks really drive the point home. This past week, 3 people were shot in the streets by federal immigration agents without justification and without accountability. That is tyranny. To kick off the 250th anniversary of our national founding, the Washington Monument displayed a light show of the great moments of our country. According to a close friend who saw it firsthand, there were only white men mentioned. God was mentioned at least 11 times that she could count, and manifest destiny was assumed to be a sacred right. That is tyranny. After kidnapping a world leader, our government has said we will occupy a foreign country for as long as the person sitting behind the Resolute desk says he believes is morally right, assuming years, and no one can influence his sense of morality. At the same time, there are renewed calls to snatch Greenland, invade Cuba, and more. That is tyranny and conquest. Each of these actions have taken place far away from us here. Though an ice facility is being slated for the Hudson Valley, so all things do come close to home if you just wait. They've happened well past the point where we can speedily or meaningfully reach alone as individuals or even as this congregation. They are abstract news reports, not cataclysmic events that change every detail of our lives. At least they aren't that big for us. At least not yet. But they are not clinical. There are 3 orphaned children in Minneapolis now. Over 80 people died in Caracas, Venezuela. The world is seeing us in countless ways as the oppressors. And they are not wrong. Because it is our wealth, our lack thereof, that is funding tyranny. And so far, we're occasionally talking about resisting, but we don't seem prepared to use the Jesus playbook to really do something to disrupt it. When I say Epiphany is the time when we come to our senses and begin to mobilize, I'm being quite literal. If we are not willing to have the Epiphany, how on earth do we expect to keep watch in the garden, refuse to join the angry mob on Good Friday, or withstand the persecution of living outside the rules of empire for the rest of our lives? Because that's what comes next in the story, if you're keeping track. Thank God we do not have to do all of this work ourselves. Not even most of it. But we do have to do some of it. For now, we have to reckon with the uncomfortable epiphany that we are the Romans. Not the Israelites. Not the oppressed. Not the chosen ones. We are the full empire. That's today's Epiphany. Beloved, it's a short run from here to Resurrection Sunday. This year, it's a very short run. Where will we be by then?